Þormesson. Valberg skorar. Valberg Gunnarsson hefur skorað. Ragnar Bergjesson er skotað mark. Glæsilega. Óskar Rafn á móti Bjarna. Og Bjarni með góða sendingu fyrir og Haraldur Ingvarsson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world, probably in Iceland. But welcome back to another episode of the Besta pod ever. We have a lot to cover. There's been some European games. There's been another round in the league. There's been some drama. It's going to be an interesting episode, right, Tryggvi?
Plenty of drama, plenty of stuff on the pitch, off the pitch. Yeah, there's plenty to talk about.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. All right, this was round 20 in the Besta deildin, and yeah, things kicked off with IBVF hosting Fylkir. Both teams really needing points from this game, probably in some form or fashion, although for either of them, a win would be huge. This is kind of where the men are separated from the boys, so to speak. So, yeah, Fylkir runs out with a 1-0 win away to IBVF. A tough place to go and get a result, and Fylkir did it, so props to them. Only one goal in the game, as we just mentioned. So, on the goal, Ori Savine found just a little bit of space in the box on the ball into the box. He wasn't really marked tight enough, in my opinion. But the flip side of that is it was also a very well-placed ball, if not a little behind Ori. And he found it with his head and he made it count. And that's how it would end. So, yeah, Fylkir with a huge 3 points. Definitely, I guess, what a lot of us would deem maybe a 6-pointer there. And yeah, good result for them.
We talked about it last week that if IBVF lost this to Fylkir, then some alarm bells should be ringing there in Vestmannaeyjar. I think they should be blaring now. This is not good, and they have their last 2 games of the normal season is HK away and then KR at home. There's a pretty decent chance they don't win either of those games. There's a pretty decent chance they lose both those games, and then they've lost 7-8 games in a row. Like it's really not good for them. Obviously they're not super far behind. They're only 3 points behind Fylkir in 9th place. They're only 5 points behind KR, which is amazingly enough given their European. Yeah. Even though KR have a game in hand and all that, but still, it's a bit insane.
Yeah, I just remember what Ori said in the episode when he joined us, and you know, he was happy with how IBVF had been playing at that point in time, but yeah, since then they've really kind of tanked, to be honest. They haven't been able to put a lot of good results together. So yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for them. I guess we should maybe mention that 2 of their new players that they signed, which we mentioned in the last couple episodes, did sub on and got some minutes. So, yeah, I think they'll be hoping that those players can integrate quickly, and maybe we'll see them get a start this week against HK.
Yeah, they need them to hit the ground running really fast. So, and they're experienced players like we spoke about last week. So maybe they can give them the edge that they need.
Yeah. I mean, outside of, the goal that we just mentioned, it doesn't really seem like there was a lot to this game, so we're probably not going to spend a ton of time on it. It seems to have been a pretty dull game, but I guess at the end of the day, Fylkir with that little extra bit of quality, if you want to say that, to be able to grab those 3 points. And after coming off such a big loss to Stjarnan, it's probably a big relief for Fylkir to be able to to come away with this win.
For sure. They really needed this. You could see how upset everyone was, the manager and the players, after the loss against Stjarnan. They thought they could compete a bit closer with them, and they just couldn't. So they really needed I think a loss here against IBVF could have been a real blow to them, and mentally, I think going into the relegation half of the season would be much more difficult if they lost this game.
Yeah. Good. Well, we'll leave that one there, and we'll move on to the next game in the week. Fram hosted Kawa, and Fram, again, a team that we've now talked about the last couple weeks who have been struggling for results and really needed to find something, and they really have been missing some of their best players, even though those players have been playing for them. They've been absent, especially in terms of goals. But not this week. Fred turned up with a goal. Good for him. Aaron Johansson also. Not that one. Not the American one, but the other one. Johansson's goal came very, very late. A real dagger to Kawa, I think. Yeah, it was huge 3 points for Fram. Really good to see them put together a performance and get a win like that. You could tell it meant a lot for the players and also for the staff. And also for the fans, it was really good performance. I will say this was the third match for Ian Pareo, who we mentioned was a new transfer into Fram. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great game for him. He was the one who gave up the penalty to Kawa. That's where their goal came from. But when I rewatched this, I watched it a couple times. In my opinion, that's a very loose call for that penalty. The Kawa player is basically already on his way down, and it's not because he got tripped up. He must have just he just lost his balance or something. So, anyways, I think it was a silly call nonetheless. But regardless, good result for Fram.
For me, what caught my attention with that, I think he was stretching for the ball a little bit, because it was really bad defending. There was so much time that was, they had so much time to clear it and they just didn't, and then it was just a bad touch, and then he kind of lost control. And even if he didn't touch him, I think he gave him the opportunity to go down with that leg stretched out like that. So it's not the best, but I think up front Fram looked really good. Those two goals. Fred's goal was, individual magic, and then the second goal was just a really good move. So that was from a Fram perspective a huge improvement over the game against Kawa, for example, where they just looked a bit listless, and it was all dependent on Thiago and Fred. So it'll be nice for the fans to see a move like that come together, and yeah, it's a huge result for Fram.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before, but Fred continues to show off his impressive left foot. Or no, sorry, he did that one with the right foot, didn't he? Yeah, he cut inside because he was coming down the left side. He cut in, and then he did a reverse Arjen Robben and smashed it to the far side with his right foot. So yeah, it was a nice individual effort. You could see he was trying to figure out what to do. You could see him; he was stomping a couple times to try to feint the Kawa defender, and I guess it worked. He got the separation that he needed, and then he just, like lightning, just shot it, and he kind of looped out and around, and the goalkeeper couldn't really do anything.
I think that's what he does really well. He takes shots, which I think not all players and teams have done that much this season and the last few seasons. I think he tries these sort of shots that maybe other players wouldn't go for. So, and it doesn't always work. We've seen in the last few weeks it hasn't quite come up for him, but he's going for these shots. So this is not a one-off. He just tried this. We've seen him do this a few, basically every game now.
Yeah. For
the past few weeks, and it finally came off.
So an interesting fact: both Kawa and Fram actually have the highest proportion of their goals coming from penalties this season. So I don't know what that says per se, but that is kind of an interesting statistic nonetheless.
It was just one of those things I wanted to look into, because when I saw that they scored from a penalty again, my brain just went again. It just feels like every time Kawa scores, it's a penalty, and obviously that's not true. I think we've calculated it's 16% of their goals, but that's 3-4 times as many as Víkingur, Valur, Breiðablik. The top teams, twice as many as FH and Kawa, for example. So there's only 3 teams in double digits: Kawa, Fram, and IBVF. And Fram and Kawa are the leaders in this little statistic. So yeah, it's interesting because I mean they haven't scored that many goals either. So that it's 25 goals and 4 of them from penalties. It shows really how much they've been struggling this season.
Yeah, they really seem to be having a tough time putting some sort of run together in the league this season. You know, Daniel Hofsteinson was sent off in this match for arguing with the ref. They got knocked out of Europe pretty soundly, if we're being honest. It wasn't even close. I don't know. Do you think there's maybe some frustrations on his end after being knocked out or something?
There was some talk around the halfway point of the season that he was looking at other options around the league and maybe abroad. He's quite a talented player. He's been one of Kawa's better players the last few years. But he signed a new deal. He said he's happy. That was at a time when they were doing pretty well in Europe and in the top half of the league, and now they look like they're going to miss out on the top half and they're out of Europe. I mean, Club Brugge was always going to win that game, to be very honest.
Yeah.
So it was good work that they got that far. They still have the cup final against Víkingur, so the fans will forgive the players if they have that sort of European campaign and then win the cup. So that game will have a huge influence on how this season is seen. But yeah, if they lose the cup and then end in 8th, 9th place, that's not a good season.
Yeah, no, not really. This question just popped into my head. Is if they win the cup, is that a European spot?
Yeah, they have to win the cup though. So the runners-up don't get even if Víkingur wins and they already have a European spot, it won't go to Kawa. But yeah, if Kawa wins, they'll get the European spot.
All right. Well, we'll have to see. When is the cup final?
It's September 16th, so pretty soon.
Good. All right. Well, yeah, good result for Fram. We'll see if they can continue to build on that. They've got a little bit of a tough run in. They play Keflavik, which is a big game next at Keflavik. And then, yeah, their last game of the season, they are home to Víkingur. So probably unlikely to get points from that. So the next round, they'll be looking to get 3 points. And then that's probably what they're going to end on. I mean, you never know. But, yeah, I think it's fair to say that they're probably not favored in the Víkingur game at all. So...
No, anything they get from that is a bonus, I think.
Yeah, agreed. All right, following those two games, Breidablik hosted Keflavik. This was an interesting game. There's been a lot of drama, which we're going to talk about, I think, in the next section with one of these two teams. But yeah, Breidablik ended up rotating their squad for this game ahead of their European match against Struga, which took place earlier today. We'll talk about that here in a second. But even with the rotated squad, yeah, they were just still too good for Keflavik.
Just being able to say, like, okay, we're resting our first team players, let's play August Lindsson. And then off the bench we can bring off, some of the best players in the league if we need a bit of extra boost. It hasn't always worked. We saw it. I've seen a few times this season where they haven't quite managed to get the win they wanted. But yeah, we did predict a draw in this game. Yeah. I think we were hoping for Keflavik's sake that they could follow up their draw at Valur with a draw here again. But yeah, Breidablik they're too good for Keflavik. They're tired, but they're still too good for this team.
Yep. August had a really, really good game as you just mentioned, scoring both goals for Breidablik. He definitely is in the running for one of our stars of the round. So, yeah, good performance from him. And for Keflavik, they will lose Idon Osmani for this upcoming huge game against Fram. He took out Christopher Ingi in the dying seconds of the game, got sent off, and will not be playing.
Yeah, I saw some commentators saying that he should have just let him go. 2-1, 3-1 on the 90-something minute. Doesn't matter. It's better to have be on the pitch against Fram. But, you can see that argument, but it's hard to go through that whole thinking when you're chasing down a striker in the 90th minute. I think that was a bit harsh, but yeah, it's a big loss for them. He's been solid, and yeah, it's going to be a very tough game against Fram, who seem to be finding their feet under a new manager. And
yeah.
But Keflavik looked okay against Valur, so you never know. They could give them a run for their money.
Yeah, That's going to be definitely on my one to watch list for this upcoming round, which is actually this week. It's not all on Sunday, which is nice. It's split across, so that's a positive thing. Just on Keflavik, before we kind of wrap them up, so as we mentioned, Fram next, but then they have Stjarnan away in their final game. Yeah, it's tough, especially given the form that Stjarnan are in right now. We'll talk about them in a second, but yeah, that's a tough run in. So we'll have to see what they can do after the split, I guess. But I think, yeah, it's just not looking great. Breidablik, let's talk about them a little bit more. So yeah, they had their Conference League game today against Struga from North Macedonia. They were away for the first leg. They managed to somehow squeak out a 1-0 win. I caught this game. It was an ugly game. It was not pretty. It was a good result in the end for Breidablik. I think they'll be really pleased with that, considering the fact that Struga had multiple chances to score throughout the entire game. I don't know if it was Breidablik's game plan going into this match to sit back like they did and to play kind of rough and tumble like they did, or like if that's just how it shook out. I truly don't know, and I haven't looked at the stats from this game yet either. But from watching it, it was a hard watch. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, just and again, I think they're really lucky to come away with a win in that game, which is again a very valuable win. Hoskuldur, he got the goal, a really nice goal. You've seen it as well, so you can chime in on this. But yeah, he beats his man, he beats his defender, and that allows him to get past. And he's kind of towards the top of the box on the right side, and there's nobody in front of him. The other two defenders that are anywhere near him are guarding against other Breidablik players. And so yeah, he has a go, takes the shot, and it just to the far corner. And that's kind of how it would end.
Yeah, it's a fantastic goal, and especially considering there's a lot of talk before the game that this pitch was an absolute disaster. I didn't manage to catch this game; it wasn't on any channel that I could get legally. So and I can from the pictures, it doesn't look like the greatest of pitch. But so be able to do that, albeit maybe not under the most amount of pressure, but there was still still had to round that last man to get into that position, and so to get to have that control on this pitch in this sort of game after this long of a season, it's a great goal, and this is exactly what Breidablik can do. To be honest, it's from what you describe it, it's very impressive that they were able to keep a clean sheet, because it's not something they've been able to do too much this season.
Right.
So to go into the return leg with a 1-0 lead is fantastic, and hopefully they can hold out.
Yeah, agreed. Struga, they're a plucky little side, and I think they feel maybe a little hard done by. They did actually have a goal that was, or the ball was put in the back of the net, I guess we should say, but it was ruled out by handball, which is the right call upon replay. Definitely the right call, but yeah, just they're a plucky little side, and I think the return leg. Well, I'm hoping it will be different anyways, with them being home and feeling maybe more comfortable. I did notice it was pretty windy as well. So I'm wondering if that had something to do with it, that could have been playing with things as well. So anyways, good result. And they've got 1 foot in on making some history for Iceland, for Icelandic teams in European competitions. So that's very exciting. Would love to see them make the group stage of Conference League, and they have the potential to get matched up with some other really exciting opponents. Yeah. So anyways, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to see how that ends up.
Yeah, I think for your first group stage, you want to come up against some big names. Obviously, you want to go as far as you can in the competition, and you don't want to go home right away. But I think there's also some charm in let's get some big names. If we have to go out, let's go out in a blaze of glory. And I think that's exactly how Breidablik would want to do it.
Yeah,
score plenty of goals and cause some havoc against some of the big names. So that should be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my mind, if they make the group stage, the pressure's off. Like, I would have zero expectation of them getting out of it. And so I think, to me, that should allow them to play more freely, at least in my mind, you would think, and have some fun with it. And, yeah, I mean, you never know who you're going to get. I mean, you could get, I don't know, Ferencváros or something. If Klaksvik can do it, so can we. So, it's going to be really fun to see how that ends up. But, yeah, the next leg is in a week. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what happens. Definitely be tuning into that. All right, let's move on. Let's go to there were 2 games that kicked off at the same time on Sunday, the final 2 games on Sunday. Haukau hosted FAU and Valor hosted Vikingur. So we'll dive into Haukau FAU, and then we'll talk about the big game after. So this one ended 2-2. A little bit of a crazy game. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant again about FAU here, but
I'll just lean back.
Yeah, just lean back, turn off your mic, go get a coffee or something. So FAU first half was excellent. Sensational goal from David Snare for FAU to put them up 1-0. Like, we completely dominated. Haukau didn't really have a response. Like, it was all guns blazing. Like, I was feeling good. And then again, we come out of halftime and I don't know what happens. Like, we just start doing stupid stuff again. Yeah, we had some big attacking dominance in the first half especially. And then Haukau came out. I think they adjusted their game plan a little bit. Got off the back foot, started getting on the front foot just a little. The first Haukau was good. It was bad. I mean, decent finish. The second one was just ridiculous. Like, on the second goal, like, we clashed players. Like, our keeper, our keeper and our defender just totally clobbered right into each other. Like, and the ball, the keeper couldn't get his hands on the ball, and so yeah, it just kind of trickled out, and then Anton Soyberg just was right there to clean it up, and he ended up scoring both goals, which was the good that I was talking about earlier, because he's proving to be a real asset to Haukau. I think he is definitely up for one of our players of the round. He had a really good match, and yeah, just silly stuff, like players not communicating. Like what are we doing? So Sindri, yeah, he didn't communicate, or if he did, I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Olafur or Finnerori, but anyways, one of the two, like, either didn't hear what he said or was already committed, and yeah, they just clashed, and then yeah, Anton was there to clean it up. So FL kind of turned it around a little bit after that. And that was late. I thought that was going to be the winner for Haukau. Like, I was sitting there like, oh, frick, you got to be kidding me. Like, funny enough, I had the game on while I was out grilling dinner for my family. And so I'm like sitting in the hot sun and I'm watching this game, and I'm like dancing around my grill because I'm like getting pissed off that that we're losing again. And yeah, it was like in the 93rd minute, Geirþr Hrafn scores his 4th goal this season, which is actually pretty amazing because he's really only had limited minutes. He'd only just come on like 5 minutes prior to that. So with the limited minutes that he's had, to get 4 goals, I think is impressive. But yeah, it was like the reverse of the second Haukau goal just a bit. Like, the Haukau defense got mixed up, players clashed, and yeah, he just like was in the right place at the right time and put it away. So it ends 2-2. I'm frustrated again. Would like to see us win, but a point is a point. I'll take a point at this point in time because that helps us get a little closer to staying in the top 6. And yeah, that's my rant. I'm done.
Yeah, the defending on both these goals is atrocious. Like, I don't know what I think the whole thing, like it's a long, the second Hauka goal, it's a long ball from the goalkeeper, gets punted on, and then he just has, the Hauka attacker just has so much time to like, he lifts it over the defender, which should have been the end of the goal, like you said, the goalkeeper Sindri just catch it. Like it doesn't, there's no, I don't think there's any doubts or a discussion on whose ball that is. That's his ball. He just comes out and catches it. And then he was complaining about that there should have been a foul or something, but like he didn't have the ball at any point, or if he did, it was for a split second before anyone hit him. It was just a really, not great, and he's not had the best season. I remember he was one of the most sought after players on the transfer market after having a pretty good time at Keflavik. Kauer actually, there was a story that Kauer rejected him, that he was very close to signing for Kauer, and then Runar, the manager, said, nope, not this guy. And then he joined FO, and he's had some good moments, but it's not been the greatest time for him so far. And then the equalizer, I think, is just because you could see that when the cross comes in and on the right, just crosses it in or shoots, it's like, okay, that's the goal. And then the cross comes in and everyone misses it, and you're like, what? Okay, what? I thought there was supposed to be a goal, and then it goes all the way across the penalty area and then back, and then it's a nice finish, but like there's two defenders and the goalkeeper is right there, and like he somehow pokes it past both of them. It's just awful. The defending on these two goals is pretty terrible.
And despite all of our domination, we had 22 shots in the game, but only 7 of them were on target, which probably says that we need to be, we need to put ourselves in better positions and maybe pick our shots a little bit better. I mean, you can shoot all you want, and there's something to, stats, more shots, the more likely, but likely you are to score, but still it's like, I don't know. So that's a bit frustrating. But looks like you were able to compile some stats for FO's attacking season.
Yeah, because again, you just have this sort of hunch a little bit, like, okay, they seem to be getting into positions, they seem to be getting, have a decent attack. Kjartan Henry's had a pretty okay season. They have these, young attackers like Kjartan Kári and Ulfur was there. He's not there anymore. But like all these players, you don't feel like they've been terrible. They feel like they've always, every time you watch FO, they're always in and around the penalty area. So like, what's happening? And then when you look at their attacking stats, it's 1.9 goals per match, which is the 5th best in the league. So that's around about par where they are. 5.6 shots on target per match, so 4th. So a little bit better. So one of the more shootinger teams. That's not a word, but that's. Then in terms of big chances created, they're 3rd in the league. They have 38 big chances created, according to FOTMA, by the way. So they're 3rd in the league in terms of big chances created. They're 4th in the league in terms of shots on target. So this speaks of a team that. And if you look at the teams above them, it's Valur, Víkingur, Breiðablik, like these crazy teams that we've talked about, the untouchables basically, and they're in and around those teams, and it's nowhere near the output. And it also shows that they've missed 29 big chances, so that's 5th in the league as well. So they're missing them as well. And then we have quite an interesting stat that was pulled together by Elva Biesig on Twitter. So that's at Elva Biesig, who comes up with some really cool statistics on Besta and also on the deildin, the first division. So if you start with the players, the actual expected top goal scorer in the Besta deildin is Kjartan Henry. So the expected goals per 90, he's at 0.84. And then there's actually some interesting names not related to FO who come next. It's Ander Runar, Helgi Guðjónsson, Emil Atlason, Ísak Andri, and Hrannar Björn. So like Ísak Andri and Emil Atlason have had a pretty good season, but Ander Runar Bjarnason in Valur and Helgi Guðjónsson have not quite hit the heights that I think people expected them, but I think that's an interesting stat for Kjartan, that he's supposed to be the highest goal scorer. The final one, I've thrown a lot of numbers at you. So the expected points for each team, Víkingur is still first, obviously. I don't think there was any surprise there. Keflavik and Fram are 11th and 12th. Kauer is supposed to be 9th. FO is supposed to be 4th. And Stjarnan is supposed to be 3rd. So like Stjarnan is now catching up to their expected points tally, but FO just don't really seem to be able to live up to what they're showing up on the pitch. While a team like, quite maybe the most interesting thing there is the two teams below FA, which is Valur, is expected to be 6th, and IBVF is supposed to be 5th. So it's so there are two teams that are wildly over and underperforming according to the statistics. That's quite interesting. But yeah, in terms of FA, it seems like they're creating a lot of chances, creating a lot of shots. But despite having someone like Kjartan Henry and Ulfur before that, they don't seem to be able to put them away.
Yeah. Kjartan Henry has 8 goals on the season, which is 4 off of who is now the top goal scorer in the league, which is Emil Atlason at Stjarnan. And
yeah, no, he's not had a bad season. I mean, we've both said that he's been suspended as well and everything, so he's not had a bad season by any stretch. But the fact that he's supposed to be, in terms of, he's supposed to have almost a goal a game, according to this, which is much more than any of the, like Emil Atla is supposed to be more than a decimal point behind him. So it's I think it just really shows the form difference between those two.
Yeah, no, I agreed. Yeah, did you want to mention anything else about Anton Soyberg?
No, I mean, like you said, he's really good. This is his full home debut. So he started before, but this is his first time starting at home in Koden. Like you said, I think he'll be a huge asset to this team. They've had some good attacking players. We mentioned them 1,000 times this season. But having a real poacher there who can just, like, both those goals were, he didn't go around, he didn't do a Huskultur, he didn't go around 3 players and whack it in the top corner. He just was right person, right place.
Yeah.
And just bundled it into the back of the net. And that's exactly sometimes what you need, especially when you're in and around the middle of the league. And if they do end up being in the bottom half come the cutoff, then I think having someone like that will be huge for them. And if he continues like this, he could get a number of goals in the last few games of the season.
Yeah, no, he's. I think he's a good signing, and I think he'll continue to be that for Haukau.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and just briefly going back to FO, I guess the thing that's in my head is, like, based on kind of these stats in our conversations, like, we've looked good going forward. Like, we look very offensive. It's just defensively we have some serious issues, I think, that need to be addressed, especially during the off season. If we're going to really challenge for any sort of title, like, we've got to sort out, like, our defensive issues, and whether that's Sindri or the goalkeeper altogether, or the back four, or maybe who's even sitting in front of the back four. Like, something's got to change there, because it really reminds me of, like, Molde from Norway. Like, lots of attacking prowess, but, like, defensively speaking, like, there's some gaps there. And you kind of saw that in their game the other night against Galatasaray, where they, like, got bit in the back by just some kind of sloppy defending. And that's what FO's had to deal with the whole freaking season. It's like, we can score goals. That's not too much of an issue, but conceding is definitely an issue. So something needs to be addressed there, as we kind of move, not into next season, but in the off season. I would like to see that addressed. So anyways, all right. The other game that was going on, and this was the big one, probably the biggest game of the week for many, Valor hosting Vikingur. And yeah, it did not end well for Valor. Poor Valor. They got smashed 4-0 by Vikingur. And yeah, that's the title race done and dusted pretty much. Also with this game, Vikingur ended up breaking the points record in the league. So they're now sitting on 53 points. I'm actually not sure what the points record was before that, but it's clearly between 50 and 53, whatever that was. So
I think it was 52, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, well, there you go. So congrats to them. They've looked the strongest team for most, if not all, of the season. Again, I think it's a real shame that they got knocked out of Europe so early, but it's also played into their hands, I think, with really just being able to put all their eggs into the league basket. This was Logi Thomason's last game. He's now officially signed for Strom Godset in Norway, which I think is a good step for him. I think there were a lot of different teams in the discussion for him. I know AIK Stockholm was one of them, but he ended up going with Strom Godset, and I think he's a player that could come in and make an impact in that side right away. So I think it's a good move for him. But yeah, he got a goal in this game, in his last game for Vikingur. It's a little bit of a shame that it wasn't in front of the home crowd per se, or in the home stadium, but still a good effort from him, a nice goal. And yeah, I mean, you wrote it in the notes, like, this is a pretty good way to say goodbye.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than this. But yeah, it's like you said, people were really looking forward to this game. This is supposed to be the last big hurdle for Vikingur, and it just wasn't. I mean, if they have Breiðablik still, right? But it's a little bit too late now. I think we keep saying they have to really collapse, but at this point they have to basically stop playing. And I'm not even sure, even if they stop playing, I'm not sure the other teams would catch them.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's just too much. And maybe this speaks a little bit to what we were talking about before about Valur overperforming, because they just go from this wild peaks of beating teams 4-5-0, 6-1, all this sort of stuff, and to then drawing teams and losing, and there's no real consistency in that team. They do the Valur move of going, fast up the wings, cutting it back to Aronio or someone like that, or they have Tryggvi up doing the Robin or reverse Robin. Those are the two Valur goals that they scored this season, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
But then another week they try to rest some players and they can't get past Keflavik, and then they come up against the Vikingur team, and they're just second best. They can't compete against this team. There was some questions that around Fredrik Skram, the goalkeeper. The questions, I mean, there were some people were talking in the studio, some analysts, that he looked like he was always switching to his left foot when he was kicking. And the second goal, I think, he didn't look super great. It was sort of on his near post to his right. So there's some speculation that maybe he was a bit injured on his right-hand side, that he wasn't quite ready for this game, because he's had of all the goalkeepers in the league, I think he's probably had one of the best seasons.
Sure. Yep.
But he just didn't look super good in this game, and maybe that's because of an injury. So yeah, there's not much to say about this game. Vikingur just rolled past through a team that they needed to beat. They've barely stumbled. There's been one or two stumbles, but not more than that. And barring a miracle, they're the champions.
Yeah. I mean, you just mentioned it. Like, Valur are almost like cookie cutter type when they attack, right? Like, it's kind of gotten to the point now where people know what they're going to do and they can kind of adjust to it and prepare for it. And I think that's doing them a disservice now. Like, they need to figure out some other ways to score some goals. Like, I'm not actually sure that I've seen Valur score a goal off a set piece all season long. That's probably not true, but in my mind, like, I'm trying to think back through some of the goals that I've seen them score, and yeah, like, none of them are quickly coming to mind, like, in terms of a goal off of a set piece. And yeah, earlier in the season, yeah, I'd say the first half, like, prior to July, like, they were just like this really free-flowing, like, goal-scoring machine, racking up 5-6-0 wins, and it's just, like, disappeared. And I don't know if they're gassed. I don't know if people are reading them now. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they know how to play against them. Maybe it's the fact that in this game in particular, they were playing against probably the best team in the league, and so that made things difficult. But yeah, they just kind of like laid down and rolled over and went belly up, and just were kind of like this tame little kitten who just wants to play with you and didn't really do a whole lot, which is disappointing. And if I'm being honest, personally, this is bad, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm hoping they do the same thing this next week, because guess who they're playing this next round? That would be FL. So it's probably going to be reverse of what I'm saying. They're probably going to come out and win 4-0 against us, given our defensive issues. But anyways, yeah, it seems to have disappeared a little bit for Valur. Maybe after the split, they'll be able to find some of that back again. I don't know. But anyhow,
it's just I think this is unexcusable for a team of Valur's stature. They have, if not the most expensive team in the league, it's very, very close to it. They brought in a manager, from Kawa, who had done really good things. I think I get this one, who's built a really solid team who never conceded a goal ever, and then gave him all the firepower that the Icelandic league had to offer. Basically, I'm not sure you could fit another attacking player in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've scored goals, they're against Víkingur, the best team, and you can make this argument in other leagues. If you're playing against Man City or Bayern Munich or something, you can't always compete, and that's fine, but they're also 11 points behind Víkingur. Like it's another thing if they were 6 points behind and they just won every single game, but they lost twice against Víkingur, then that's a different discussion. But they've lost 4 games this season, 2 of them against Hauka, by the way. Yeah, so it's just
wild.
There's going to be huge expectations next season for Valur. They can't, or they shouldn't be able to afford another season like this. But they'll be back in Europe most likely, unless it all goes belly up. So that'll be interesting to see as well how this team fares there.
Yeah, agreed. Because you would think too, given the fact of our coefficient numbers and whatnot, there's a chance I think that we might draw some tougher opponents too. So I don't know how well that bodes for Valor, but they're gonna have to be able to step up in Europe too and fight on multiple fronts. But yeah, I agree. I think the pressure is mounting for them for the next season.
Yeah, because they should. That's what they should. That's the level they should be aiming for, right? They're bringing home players from the goalkeeper Fredrik Skram. Okay, he came from Denmark, but he wasn't. He was an full international for Iceland. They have a full international from the States. They have ex-internationals from Iceland. They're bringing home young players from Scandinavia. This is the level they should be aiming for, and if they crash and burn out of Europe and don't do a Víkingur in the league, I think that's some questions need to be asked next season.
No, I agree. Well, talking back to what you just mentioned about some German football there, let's talk about the Icelandic Jürgen Klopp's team. So on Monday was the last game of the round, and it was Stjarnan hosting Kaur. So Stjarnan ended up rolling out 3-1 winners in this game. This was actually a very entertaining game. I enjoyed watching this game. I'm not sure I can say the same about you, since it was your team that kind of took the loss a little bit. But it was a hat trick for Emil Atlason. His second goal was sensational. Definitely go on YouTube and search Besta deildin and watch the Stjarnan Kaur highlights. That's a fantastic goal. So yeah, after he must have had a chip on his shoulder, because after not getting an official quote-unquote hat trick last week, when he basically created all 3 of those goals, he officially gets one this week.
I feel like I say this every time we talk about a Kaur game. It was a game of 2 halves. It was weird. We're just not really able to fully play a game for 90 minutes where we control and dispatch teams enough. I think we were the better side in the first half. They didn't, correct me if the stats prove me wrong, but I don't think they had that many shots on goal. They had maybe 2 or 3 shots on goal in the first half, and they scored from both of them. The second goal was super nice from a Kaur perspective. I would hope the goalkeeper could have done a bit better there. I don't know if his position, the camera angles are always a bit weird on that, so I can't quite see if his positioning is off or what. But I feel like he's far too far on the right end of this. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too critical, but yeah. And then they win it with a penalty, which was like Rúnar Kristinsson, the manager, was furious after the game because we gave them that penalty. We weren't in the second half. We weren't quite as dominating. I feel as in the first. We hit the bar. Benoni hit the bar with a pretty nice header. He just couldn't quite get it low enough. But then Kenny Troppard fouled I think it was a pretty bad foul, to be honest. Not like as in rough, just like a poor poor attempt at a tackle. And it was one of those games that we should have been able to score more than one goal, and we just couldn't. And that's very much the story of this season. Benoni was bright. I feel like he was running around and creating hassle, and he scored the goal. Very nice finish. But it's just the difference between these two teams. Emil Atlason scores with every single touch, and we just can't get in those positions or score when we get in those positions. So Stjarnan seem to be untouchable. They're basically confirmed for the top. I think the only way is if Kawa make a huge resurgence and make it into the top half. I think they can technically still, if FH Kawa and Kawa all just have a complete reversal of their recent form, then they can theoretically throw Stjarnan out of the top 6, but it's not going to happen. So it's a really great performance by Jökull and the team at Stjarnan to take this young team that have lost 2 really good players, potentially losing more. And but you still feel like even if Eggert or others left, they would suffer, but they wouldn't drop off a cliff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what's going on at Stjarnan. We've talked. I don't want to hash it over again because we've talked about it a lot, and they've really turned their season around, and it's absolutely incredible. I think it's one of the stories of the season, to this point. And yeah, I mean, part of me actually just would kind of like to see them maybe snag that 4th spot for Europe. I mean, it's tricky because they've performed so well, and you just wonder if they've like figured out a way to overperform, and if they can carry this form into the next season. I mean, there's so many unknowns at this point in time. Like, what's going to happen during the off season, right? Like, Egert Aron looks like he's about to leave. We heard this week that Lyngby and Haugesund are 2 clubs who are in the mix for his signature, which looks like that's probably going to happen here in the next week or so. So that's another big one gone. I think it's looking more and more likely that it's maybe going to be Haugesund. I think I saw something from Ori about that earlier today. I guess my point is I like what they're doing. This was another really solid performance. I think they have one of the best strikers in the league in Emil Atlason. We know, though, from some of the European results that playing in the Besta is not. It's vastly different from playing in Europe, right? And so there's a lot of unknowns, I think, if they were to qualify for Europe, how they would actually do, because they're not a club who tends to go out and get a lot of like big signings, right? Like, they do tend to rely a lot on their young players, which is good and positive, and Europe would be a huge window for them to showcase exactly what they can do. But you also don't want to see them like crash out necessarily, right? Like, it's always good to be able to get points and keep building up that coefficient. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts, I guess. I don't have too many thoughts on Kaur. I am interested to see, how their next 2 games, end up going. I think I'm not too concerned about them. I think they'll be able to stay in the top 6. And I think that's, again, a huge accomplishment for them considering how the start to their season went. But you mentioned it back when we were talking about it, and you didn't really panic. So credit to you, you kind of had faith and trust that they'd be able to find a way to see it through, and they have. And yeah, Benoni is he's really emerging as a really great player. And yeah, I'll be interested to see if Kaur can hold on to him. So
no, it's been a good turnaround, and yeah, it's a young team. Like, they're the under-19 international squad. It was just announced, and there's 4 Kaur players, regular starters, and also Lucas Magni, who's been playing a little bit as well. So like, that's quite impressive to have 2.5 of your players, first team players, being called up for the under-19 national team. Stjarnan, obviously, it's something Stjarnan can do, but not a lot of the other top Icelandic teams. So that's good, and so moving in the right direction. But yeah, still work to be done. And the last 2 games before the split is Fylkir and IBVF. So yeah, if they screw up both of those games, I think then maybe they deserve to be in the bottom 6. But yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, that was round 20 in the league. So we will leave it there. When we come back, we're going to talk about a few other notes from around the league, including some drama with the defending champions. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. we're going to discuss a few different things that have happened in the league, just kind of some extraneous notes. We're going to go ahead and start off with Fram. As you know, I'm not sure, I think we mentioned it briefly in the first section, but Ragnar Sigurdsson is officially the new manager of Fram for the rest of the season. Igor Bjarni Kostic will be his assistant. I think you mentioned to me that Kostic is, like, that's a pretty good grab for them. He has made quite a name for himself. He's pretty good. That's a pretty good grab, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's worked in I think he even worked in the Norwegian FA at some point. But no, it's a really nice name, and Ragnar is obviously really experienced as a footballer. He's played in Champions League and Denmark, Russia, so he knows football. But this is his first stint as a manager. There was some talk when he took over that people were surprised, because when he was a player, there was always this. He was very openly not interested in football. He was playing for FC Copenhagen at some point, and they asked him about I don't remember the name of the player, but it was a pretty big, world class footballer, and he just said, "Yeah, I don't care. I have no idea. If the staff will tell me what to do." So I think some people are a bit interested to see the fact that he's a manager, and they asked him about it, and he said, it just sort of fell into it, and it seems nice, and he's happy that he can focus on training now, and he doesn't have to worry about if he's going to be the manager or not. So he's been doing some interesting things. They like we said, they played pretty well against Kawa. They're trying to engage the fans a bit. He's talked about how he did like an open training before the Kawa game to get a bit more connected to the fans. Mm-hmm. There was a free entrance for everyone dressed in blue, and then I think in his first game as temporary manager. So they're trying to connect back to the fans, and he understands that as an ex-footballer as well, how important that is. So yeah, we'll see how he does for the rest of the season, if he can activate them and keep them out of the relegation zone.
Yeah. Let's talk about some drama that's been happening in the league, specifically at one club. So Breidablik, despite everything that they've had going for them in their European campaign and whatnot. Yeah, I'm gonna let you tell about this one, because this is crazy.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit last week, that there was potentially something going on in the background. People weren't satisfied with the transfers, and there was this reported clash between Oscar, the manager, and Ólafur Kristjánsson, who was the sort of director of football. And after they get kicked out of the Europa League, it was announced that Ólafur Kristjánsson's contract would be terminated, or however they worded it. So he's going to finish the season for the last 3 months, but then he's off. It's quite big, because he was quite a coup for them. He's an ex-manager. He was obviously the manager of Breidablik, went abroad, which not a lot of Icelandic managers do. And he comes back, and he's not assisting, but he's sort of in the backroom staff. Breidablik with Oscar, who is very outspoken, and he has his own ways of doing things. I think we can say that. So it was having those two behind this club, it was seen as quite a coup, but it doesn't seem that it's worked out so far. So it'll be interesting to see what the aftermath is, and if someone speaks about this and says, tells us the real story.
Yeah. But that is not all that has happened.
No, no, of course not. So like we spoke about, they played Keflavík, and then they played Struga now tonight in Europe. And before the return leg at home in Kópavogur, they're playing Víkingur this weekend. And Breidablik say that they requested that the Víkingur game should be postponed so they could rest for the return leg, so they could be the first Icelandic team to qualify for Europe and European groups stages. And there was some drama about that, some controversy, like why aren't Víkingur stepping aside? Why are they not helping Icelandic football, as some people said it? But then Víkingur came out and said, we never received any sort of request from Breidablik. There was some unofficial talk about maybe pushing it, but Víkingur said that they're not super interested in that. They have there's international coming up, youth and full internationals, and they have players going into that, and they don't want to push this game into the international break where they're going to be missing some players, and they hit back, why didn't you postpone the Keflavik game instead? Keflavik don't have that many internationals. That would have been maybe the game to postpone. I don't know if this is a lot of people have been saying that this is a follow-up from the first game of the season, which blew up quite spectacularly. So I don't know if this is some sort of bad blood or if it's just supposed to stoke up more bad blood for this weekend. But it's definitely not calmed things down.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I don't even want to weigh in. I don't even know. I mean, it's like, I don't know. You guys got to plan. You guys got to plan further ahead, I think. That's all I'm going to say. But
yeah, and there's been talk that the FA this is something that the league in general should do moving forward, because some clubs, I think in the Faroe Islands, Klaksvik, have gotten some breaks around their European campaign, so they haven't played quite as many league games as Breiðablik have. So maybe it's something the league needs to look into if you want to try to push more teams into the group stages. So Breiðablik isn't, if they make it this year, isn't a one-off. So yeah, I agree. It's something maybe that should be sorted, not a week before the game.
Yeah, exactly. So that happened, but then we move into the next. There's a bunch surrounding Vikingur here, so there's more drama. So
yeah, Vikingur don't want to be left behind, right? If Breiðablik caused drama, then Vikingur is right there behind them.
Yeah, seriously, it's like just put those two in a boxing ring and just let them go at it. I guess I don't know. Because after the game against Valor, I guess Valor is now considering. They came out and said that they were considering filing a complaint against Vikingur because Arnar, who's the Vikingur coach or manager, served his touchline ban by being in constant phone conversations with his assistants in the stands. And like there's pictures of that, but that's not the first time he's done it. I shared a video of him doing that to our Instagram feed. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but that was a couple weeks ago. And I mean, so like everybody knows he's doing it, and he admitted to it in an interview, which I think you read or watched or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to hide this sort of stuff. Like this is not the Bernabeu Stadium, or this isn't the 90,000 people stand where you can hide or in some executive box. He's standing right there with in front of the cameras doing it. So it's you can't really hide this. He's on the phone the entire time. Maybe he could have said he was talking to his wife or something for 90 minutes, but I think he was doing it in all the games that he's been suspended. So I think Valur, maybe they weren't too happy about it. I think it's fine to complain about it. It's against the rules. Technically, I think there's some sort of statement that it is technically you're not supposed to be in contact like this. So the FA is going to look into it. I think it was the last I read about it. So the famous disciplinary committee that we talked about earlier this season. So they'll look into it, and I'm sure there'll be some consequences.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think it's going to be the consequence that maybe Valor or their fans are hoping for. Like, I think I saw a lot of like vitriol on Twitter, like Valor fans being like, "Oh yeah, maybe we can get the 3 points back or whatever." No, that's not going to happen. Like if anything, he's going to get a longer touchline ban. And there's probably going to be a fine to the club. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what's outlined in, like, the KSI bylaws. Like, so, like, pretty sure if you're a Valor fan, you could just give up any thought of, like, getting some sort of points back. Like, that's a bit much, I think. So.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's yeah, like you said, it's financial or more suspensions for Arnar.
Yeah. Ridiculous. All right, well, that's going to round it up for this section. One more section. When we come back, we're going to name our 3 stars of the round, and we will wrap it up then. So back in a second. Okay, welcome back to the final section of this episode. We are going to discuss or maybe just mention, because I think we've discussed each of them plenty of detail so far this episode. But yeah, our 3 stars of the round. So I'll go ahead and start us off this week. So with him leaving to Norway, with him scoring a goal, with him being probably one of Vikinger's most consistent players this season, Logi Thomason is one of our players of the round. So yeah, I think it's well-deserved, and he's going to be missed in the league.
For sure. The second one that we mentioned as well is August Edvald Klinsson at Breiðablik. Scored 2 goals, took his chance. You know, doesn't get to start too many games because the rest of the team is just doing so well. So he took his chance very well, and he'll be hoping he can get some more game time in Europe as well.
Yeah, he did not start for them today in their game against Struga, but if I remember correctly, he did come on and he got some minutes today. So yeah, so props to him. Great job. Our third player of the round, third and final player of the round, is going to be Anton Søberg, the Danish striker at Haukau. So we've kind of already touched, again, similar to August, 2 goals this last round. Poacher's goals, both of them, but he's really kind of quickly come into that Haukau side, and I think he's already started to make a good impact for them, and is turning out to be a good signing. So yeah, he gets our final star of this round. So with that, we will wrap up this episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it. If you get a moment, please leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on, so we can find and connect with other fans of Icelandic football, my bad. It's the American way. Yeah, so please leave us a review and share us with your friends. We've got some really cool content that we like to create up on our Instagram channel, and we put it on our Twitter as well, which you can find at Besta English. And yeah, Tryggvi, thanks for joining me for this episode.
Thank you.
And thank you, listeners. And yeah, we'll see you next time.